think this is a fairy tale love story? No, it's a game of power. 11 years of marriage, 11 years of waiting, and in return, betrayal and intrigue. He chose her, innocent, sweet, unthreatening, and I, Beatrix, was destined to be the victim of this game of love. But this time, I won't be silent. I'm going to turn this story on its head and show everyone, female villains, too, can win. You think love is the only answer? No, power is the eternal truth. In the end, he will return to me while asking for forgiveness without me really lifting a finger against Delia. My lips curl into a smile, and that one little smile turns the worry in the eyes of my ladies to conviction that things will be alright. The Villainess isn't the only ones with weaknesses. Once the happy ending has been reached, the perfect heroine will begin to fall apart, and that's where I'll strike, after having waited for 11 years for this day. So prepare yourselves, you two little lovebirds. I've let you taste the intoxication of love. Now it's time for both of you to wake up. Clovis' point of view. I stare coldly at Beatrix as she saunters into the student council room uninvited. The formerly happy atmosphere in the room immediately turns tense, and poor Delia is gripping the hem of her dress tightly, while trying desperately to avoid Beatrix's gaze. If it hadn't been because Beatrix's eyes were only on me, I would have stepped between them. How dares she show up here with everything she's done? More importantly, with all the gazes on her, Beatrix should know perfectly well that she isn't welcome here. Prince Clovis, what a pleasure to see you. The rest of you as well, she says politely, giving an elegant curtsy. Her long blonde locks of hair roll over her shoulder almost sensually, and in her eyes is a playfulness that's usually absent in her manners. What did she come here for? I feel a shiver crawl up my spine as an instinctual warning. Dealing with Beatrix is like dealing with a rolled-up porcupine, sticking out just a hand to give you a handshake. The friendliness is superficial, and you have no way to get past the needles. Taking her hand simply leaves you risking that she uses said hand to pull you into the needles. You've said your greetings. You should leave now, Lady Beatrix. I respond coldly. The faster I send her away, the faster Delia will feel comfortable. Era, how cold, she says softly with a bit of a laughter in her voice. I stare in disbelief at her outrageous attitude. And here I thought we should have an important conversation about those plans you gentlemen have been making for tomorrow night. I shudder at Beatrix's smile, as she rather blatantly calls out the condemnation we had planned for her tomorrow night. She'd looked so cold and annoyed recently, that seeing this amusement on her face makes my stomach tangle up into a knot of worry. How long has she known? If she's approaching like this, does that then mean she has found a way to get out of the situation? No, that shouldn't be possible. We've been gathering all this evidence so she couldn't. She might just be bluffing, or just heard that I plan to leave her waiting, and go with Delia for the graduation ball tomorrow. If you already know, then why should I have a conversation with you about that? I glance to Delia, who seems tremble at Beatrix's presence. With how Beatrix has been bullying her, it's understandable. But seeing Delia's beautiful sapphire eyes shine with tears makes my heart ache with guilt that I can't make the situation better immediately. She trusts me to handle this. Even if Beatrix's family brought the royal family back to power, I must be firm with her. Why? Are you that certain of your witnesses, and all your circumstantial evidence will hold up? Another shudder runs down my spine. She knows. Should I just start it here and hope enough of a crowd gathers? I wanted to do this in front of a crowd so it couldn't be buried afterwards and the scandal would outweigh any potential gaps in the evidence that she could bribe herself out of. The student council room is somewhat isolated. There will be little chance for the plan to succeed if we start it now. I'm simply suggesting a talk, so that we can do this far more cleanly, but on the condition that it's only you and me talking, Your Highness. Her honey golden eyes narrow at me, and there's a hint of pity in her gaze. Maximilian, her brother, tries to burst into the conversation, but is cut short by Beatrix unfolding a fan with a sharp snap. Silence, Maximilian. I am aware of your part in this too. We will have a talk of our own at home, with our parents. Her eyes narrow into a glare of disappointment and disgust at Maximilian, and he flinches. If their parents find out he's been sabotaging Beatrix's claim to the throne, they'll rip him apart. They're just as set on her position as her, if not even more. What do I do? Does she have a way out? Beatrix looks towards Leonard, the son of the swords master, and then back to me, and I can see a smile form on her lips, as her eyes narrow with mockery this time. Leonard, she calls out, almost seductively, but while looking directly into my eyes, like she's warning me she's intending to ruin everything right here and now if she has to. I can't tell if she's bluffing. Leonard, take Delia outside. The rest of you go with them. I'm going to talk with Lady Beatrix for a while. I'll have to cover for them, just in case. I give a saying look to Maximilian, and he nods carefully, although giving a worried stare towards Beatrix. As he steps past me, he whispers in my ear, "Be careful, Your Highness." When Beatrix is like this, she has some cruel plan concocted that she's had going for a while. I nod. That's how Beatrix works. While I myself am usually not at the end of this treatment, I've seen it happen uncomfortably many times. Delia and the guys of the student council leave, and in the large office room remains only Beatrix and I, and her lips curl into a smile, that's only half hidden behind her fan. Clovis' point of view. Beatrix lets out a heavy sigh, and then leans forward as she crosses her legs, leaning her elbow on her leg, and putting her head on her hand like she is trying to be inquisitive, but she just ends up looking seductive. I look away. Beatrix has never acted towards me like this before, but if she knows about the condemnation, then she knows about my feelings for Delia too. While Beatrix never had any affection for me, she needs the throne. If she doesn't, her family will likely force an unreasonable marriage on her. Sit up normally. Nothing you can do can convince me to change my mind. I scold her, but I'm met with a giggle as response. When I look back, she has folded the fan, and covers her mouth as she giggles, but as our eyes meet, that giggle turns into a laugh. Did you think I was trying to seduce you? She laughs harder as she leans back in the couch, and then looks at me with cold eyes. I see. So despite the overwhelming puppy love for Delia, you still end up looking at me like that. Wah, that's not what I meant. She giggles again, but I'm at a loss for words. She has never been this bold with me before. I don't think I've even seen her laugh this freely either. Now, Your Highness. Getting so riled up over so little. Am I not the one that should be insulted? That you see me as a woman that would try to seduce a man already in love? She smiles, but her eyes are cold. That is exactly what you are. You've been jealous of Delia from the start. Jealous that Delia can get the throne by simply and honestly gaining my affection. She gives a huff. Jealous? That you give your affection to some naive girl and not me, your betrothed? Jealous that you've not met up with me of your own free will for years, but you meet up with her every single day? Or jealous that you kiss her in the garden, where you think I won't see it? My stomach sinks with worry. How did she know about that? Are you spying on Delia? She sends me a smile, but her eyes look at me with pity, like a spider looking at its wrapped-up prey struggle. I was having tea on the balcony, with multiple young ladies, Your Highness. Balcony? Balcony. That's right, there's a balcony by the sunroom that overlooks those gardens, but Beatrix is usually never there. That's the book club's area. Then again, she's a social butterfly. Why wouldn't she be spreading her influence there? I hold in a sigh of frustration at what is essentially a trump card I placed in her hand. I let my guard down. Now the question is, what price I'll have to pay. However, let us put that matter aside. Your Highness, I didn't come here to fight. I came here to bring a compromise. Her expression turns cold and the smile disappears, making my stomach twist again. I can't help but to get the feeling I am being played, because I can't imagine why she would let a witness detail like this go unpunished. At the very least, she can truly get Delia in trouble. Genuinely. The difference between an affair before or after the broken betrothal means a lot, and being a part of an affair would ruin Delia's reputation. You'll also like Eunice Louisiana Alvarez, a 20-year-old girl who had no friends even though she was already in senior high school. Her classmates prefer her as the nerd of the campus. Being a normal college student, Yunso was reincarnated into a book she barely remembers as a no-name cannon fodder. To survive in an unknown world, she devises a plan in. Completed. Warning. The story is unedited. I apologize for the numerous grammatical errors within and messy storyline. After my death, I'm grateful to be reincarnated. Falling into the fiery hell she created must have been the perfect way for her to die. The other woman would then become the heroine that saved the townspeople from the Am I a Villainess? By Kira Embers. Am I a Villainess? After I died in the modern world, I was born in a magical realm with scheming nobles, magical creatures, and a magic academy straight out of Hogwarts. Still, I miss the inn. Nana wasn't someone who could be called ambitious. In fact, her mom liked to constantly remind her that she was too lazy. It wasn't that Nana was lazy. Really, she was. Follow the plot by Potato Wolfie. Follow the plot. In many stories, there is many tropes, cliches and so more. However, there is this one specific trope, in which is called the reincarnation into another world trope. Oh. I don't even think Beatrix can compromise on anything anyway. That's why, among all the vicious marriage candidates, she came out on top, as she holds the court of young ladies in an iron grip. Whoever goes against her ends up impaled on that spiked defense of hers. First of all, I haven't laid a hand on Miss Delia, nor incited anyone to do so. All those witnesses you have are all conveniently political opponents of mine, in a boring old ploy to reduce my favor in your eyes. Of course she'd say that. It's not like there is any favor in my to reduce for the other candidates at this point though. I've only never struggled against the political marriage, because I had never fallen in love, and it was important for the royal family. But we have the power back now, so just for this one thing, I should be able to choose the person I have to be with for the rest of my life. I have no freedom in any other aspect of my life. So just this one thing. If you had actually asked around, you would know as much. Those two little vixens you got a test Emily from, are loyal to Lady Belrose. In case you do not remember her, Lady Belrose is your second marriage candidate. In case you do stop your engagement with me, she figures taking the spot from Delia will be easier than dealing with me. Lady Belrose vaguely rings a bell, but only as someone Beatrix argues with a lot. While that does lend credit to her statements, the thought of Beatrice, who always puts ladies approaching me harshly in their place, suddenly being meek in front of Delia seems ridiculous. And what is your so-called motive for not bullying Delia? She raises an eyebrow and sighs at me, much like a tutor when you give a wrong answer. That is not how proving goes, but I will enlighten you, if it makes you trust me just a little more, so we can do these negotiations properly. She reaches into a dress pocket and pulls out a few sheets of business ledgers, which she rather coolly lets slide through the air down to the table and across the table to me. I grab it before it falls down, and end up studying them with suspicion. They show business transactions from Delia's father's companies, and truths I wish I didn't know stare back at me, like I've stared into an abyss. If this is true, you're protecting Delia's family's businesses since she started at the academy. Why? I know many of the names that has pulled out of business with the Baron, and I know many of the names that have started business with them afterwards. But it's too convenient. Did she convince them to back off so she could gain control over the Baron's fate? But the new contacts are in the peripheral of Beatrix's family's power, as far from Beatrix's power as possible, but still supporters of Beatrix, or neutrals, or even my supporters, which I weren't informed of had started such businesses. Beatrix stares at me dumbstruck. Why, you Ash? Because you simply went and forgot, she says plainly, staring directly at me with her honey-colored eyes, listening almost with amusement. Is she serious? These papers show that Beatrix has been covering for Delia long before I actually fell in love with her. Was I that easy to read? What kind of fool cannot keep his mistress safe from the machinations of court? She lazily uses the fan to point at the ledgers. You can confirm the authenticity of this on your own if you wish. What do you want? I'll be honest. If these documents are real, then it's enough to prove that Beatrice has been helping Delia go through the academy, and spent quite a lot of resources and favors to make it succeed. That, together with bringing witnesses into doubt, and having a specific target to pawn them off on as well as a reason prepared, means that the condemnation has failed, and the condemnation failing, means our engagement won't be broken. The vague relief from Beatrix not having been a part of the things that happened, is outshined by bitterness for the same. With this, I no longer have any excuses for breaking the engagement. Because in the end, my feelings aren't a valid reason. The hope to marry someone that actually loved me, and wasn't just using me for my position, got trapped by Beatrix's web, wound up in it, and devoured. In addition, she knows my hopes now, so there won't be another opening to make it happen if she can help it. No, there has to be a way. Beatrix smiles a small victorious smile as I give in, looking like she's got me underfoot. Let's break the engagement. What? Why? Is she kidding? But she looks completely serious. Well, temporarily at least, she responds and cups her own cheek, with a sly smile on her lips. Whatever momentary adrenaline rush of hope I just got, turns to suspicion. Temporarily? What in the world are you scheming? My senses tell me that if I say yes to whatever she is suggesting, she'll have me wrapped up like her prisoner in her web of schemes more than I already am. Even if I make your highness and the other young men give up for tomorrow, it's just a matter of time until another attempt is made, or someone uses more dramatical means, to what they consider a happy end. Of course I am aware that neither of us can so easily break off the engagement. If that was possible, you would never have needed to orchestrate such a scandal tomorrow, but I'm certain, that when it comes down to it, His Majesty the King would rather have the engagement broken, than have me dead, and you dishonored. Her tone turns somewhat cheery, as she describes various horrible ways this struggle of ours can end, but actually comes up with a plan that could get the engagement broken normally, in case we both testify that death would be a possible ending. What about the temporary part? Her smile fades as fast as it formed. I do carry some spite towards you, for how you've neglected me, and the humiliation of you kissing Delia in front of me, and the ladies at the tea party, so I'm going to demand something in return for breaking the engagement. A little test of sorts. I sigh heavily. My own spur-of-the-moment actions haunt me, but I can't argue. I got caught up in the moment, after thinking everything was already over. What do you want? I'll give her anything reasonable to make this calm down. Even more if I can have Delia. You'll have a month vacation with Delia. I stare at Beatrix dumbfounded. Again, I can't tell what's going on in that head of hers, at all. I can't even tell how this is in any way benefiting what I thought was her goal. In one moment it feels like she's angry I'm with Delia, and in the next it feels like she's encouraging it. You will tell Miss Delia that our engagement is broken. Everyone in the Summer Palace will be instructed to say the same. You will then bring her to the Summer Palace, where you will be doing all your summer work in the span of a month, whereafter you can enjoy the rest of the summer with her leisurely. If you are still certain that you wish to go through with being with Delia after a month, then we will officially break off our engagement. Of course you'll be assisting me by making up for the broken engagement in case you succeed. I stare at her blankly, as I wait for her to continue, but no more words come. That's it? That is all, Your Highness. This is too easy. It will be hell. Genuine hell. But genuine hell shouldn't be enough for Beatrix after all of this. That can't be all. What are you scheming? She smiles. Don't worry, I won't be doing anything. I will be staying in my family's mansion, which is conveniently right next to the palace. But that is all. She watches me closely, rather obviously enjoying my confusion. So she wants to watch? Why? Their family summer mansion has overlook of the south garden, so without a doubt she'll be quietly watching from there. What possible joy could she get out of watching me being romantic with Delia in the little time there will be for it? Why go through all of this, Beatrix? Nothing will happen in a month that will make me change my mind. I insist, but she just tilts her head to the side. When I get jealous, Your Highness, I do indeed lash out a bit. I know you hate, how you despise, when I put the girls approaching you so sweetly, in their place. How I scold you, and them, for being too thoughtlessly intimate. But what about Delia? I harden my gaze at her. What about Delia? I answer back in a harsh tone, to warn her not to overstep. But Beatrix doesn't care about boundaries today. Delia has never seen you with another woman, Your Highness. She knows you hate me, so I do not count a threat to her. I wonder, how does she get, when she gets jealous? Her voice gets all sickeningly smooth again, like she's mocking Delia. She won't. Now stop, Beatrix. She will cry, I am sure. Cry? Delia probably would. She's a lot more quiet and hesitant to do something wrong than Beatrice. In another man's arms. My world stops for a moment, as those words come from Beatrix. And in an instant I've stepped around the table and leaned over her to the point I'm looming. Delia would never. I snap at her coldly. I see. Beatrix's answer sounds bored and cold, unthreatened and unbothered. I stand back up, hesitantly. If you insist she will not, then there should not be a problem with my demand, right? Beatrix looks at me with disappointment, as she turns away, as if she'd hoped my answer would be different. Then, as though insulted, she crosses her arms stubbornly. I wish you'd stood up for me like that just once, Your Highness. Her tone now somber. When I look at her expression from the side, it's bitter. You don't need anyone to stand up for you. I respond in a harsher tone than what is deserved. Beatrice never needed me to stand up for her. She never needed me for anything. She never trusted me for an instant either. She sighs. And how would you know? You've not met me behind closed doors for years. The only one you see is the performance a queen must put on. I stare at her, and as she says that so quietly, bitterly, and carefully, the overwhelming presence she usually exudes seems to disappear. And I notice that the way her arms are crossed aren't crossed stubbornly, but defensively. Performance, you? My voice shakes with a weird hint of doubt, seeing Beatrice like this. Why is she showing this now? Why is she saying these things now instead of years ago? Am I being manipulated? I can't even tell. Of course. After all, if I do not, your mistreatment of me only becomes more obvious, and ladies praying for your attention and affection come crawling like cockroaches. Then I have to chase them away, making you hate me more. It's a vicious circle, where I must become crueler and colder. I want to retort to her words, but I never really cared much for the ladies' interactions, or looked into what Beatrix's everyday consisted of. I only knew she argued a lot, and took control of meetings regarding management with an iron fist I just assumed she used in court as well. While the officials are terrified of her, they respect that she's good at her work, like it's her one good point they can actually respect. Then why wouldn't you have chased away Delia? Beatrice just smiles, but with hints of pity, disappointment and disgust in her eyes. Because it was painfully obvious you fell for her, and that if I messed with your first love, I'd be in trouble, for better or worse. You're awfully protective of the things you like. I just happen not to be one of them, she replies bitterly. She just has something you do not. I respond somewhat hesitantly, to which I just get a huff as a response. More specifically, the desire to be with me for who I am, not for my title. The world that turned me into this, is the world you want to thrust Delia into. Delia has won over everyone she talks with, except for you, I insist in return. Of course, temporarily, she's easy to get rid of, once I'm not here to support her back. Beatrix brushes a wavy lock of hair behind her ear. Either way, this is a useless topic. Do you accept my deal or not? She doesn't look at me, and I hesitate. The bad feeling isn't gone, but she's right that I shouldn't have a problem with it, if I don't doubt Delia. I accept. Even with this deal, the other thing still hangs over me. How can I earn your forgiveness for the kiss? More precisely, how I can get her to not expose it. Let me hit you. I stare up at her, and find her eyes staring at me intensely. I can't believe she actually requested that, but at this point I suppose it's the smallest surprise I have gotten today. She's not allowed to hit me without permission. I hold in a sigh. Certainly, this much I deserve. You can hit me, once, Beatrix. While I'm thinking that saying, once, was a good decision, she quickly steps in front of me, and surprisingly fast of her, her hand swings through the air with a swish, and smacks into the side of my face, leaving a stinging, aching surface behind, and my ear ringing. She didn't hold back, more like, I think she hit as hard as she could. Because she's holding her own hand in pain, which she's trying to mask with teary eyes. Beatrix, did you lose your temper a bit? Before I realize it, a smile has crept onto my lips. I've not seen such an unveiled look on her face since we were kids, and it's satisfying to see her pout at my words. I bite my cheek to stop, but seeing her so focused on enduring the pain from her own slap is somehow amusing. It looks like it hurts her more than the slap does on me. She glares up at me, and straightens up, still holding her hurting hand that's already turning red. The permission is so rarely given, I had to make certain I took advantage of it. I shall leave now. I wish you a good vacation. I will send a servant with the contract when I get back. She heads towards the door, but stops before she walks out, and then looks to me again. Just remember I warned you, Clovis. My smile turns to a frown, both at the hint that Delia would be unfaithful, but also that Beatrice just used my name for the first time since we entered the academy. I'm going to add an extra condition to the agreement. You cannot tell her sorry for spending time doing your work. A bitter feeling fills my body. I know she means because my work is a requirement that shouldn't be apologized for, but it still feels wrong. Will you be escorting Delia tomorrow, Your Highness? I look down to the floor. According to the agreement, the news should be kept quiet for a month, so technically I can't let Beatrix go unattended. But if I don't go with Delia, she will be heartbroken. Beatrix sighs. Do it. Escort Miss Delia to the ball. I stare at her back in disbelief again. But I am feeling oddly under the weather. I will surely be too ill to attend tomorrow, Your Highness. I shall ensure that Delia, as my replacement, tomorrow night, shall not bring you shame. She puts on a polite tone again, and then exits the room, making the choice that I hesitated to do. Delia's point of view. Clovis looked exhausted when Lady Beatrix finally left, so I quickly went up to him and took his hand, putting it against my cheek as I hold it, while I looked up at him sweetly, trying my best to cheer him up a bit. Are you okay, Clovis? His eyes soften at me, making his radiant soft smile melt my heart a little. Now where you are here with me, Delia. His husky voice reminds me of yesterday's kiss in the garden, making heat rise to my cheeks. What did she want? Maximilian asks worried. He's her sister, so he knows Lady Beatrix well. Clovis then smiles to me. She agreed to break our engagement and won't be at the ball tomorrow. She even agreed to send you everything you'll need for tomorrow, so we can spend the entire ball together, with you by my side, Delia. His eyes glimmer with happiness. Was Lady Beatrix that kind? Part of me is suspicious that she will do something bad, but seeing how happy Clovis is, shining at me like a radiant star of love, melts my doubts away. Really? Really? He responds, and relief, joy and love overtakes me, as I jump into his arms. He twirls me around, and when he puts me down, he puts our foreheads together. We can finally be together. I love you, Delia. I love you too, Clovis. Beatrix's point of view. My hand hurts. I know he has a chiseled face, but does it have to hurt that much? He barely even flinched too. I step into the carriage, heading home for the day. The meeting didn't go perfectly, but I think I got everything said that I needed to say. To be honest, this is a bet. A bet on Delia's personality. There are many different kinds of heroines, but one thing many have in common is that they are used to their partner standing up for them in social conflicts. The problem is that these heroines don't know what to do when that conflict is with their own partner. So, one could say the author adds a little spice by making the heroine cry and run into the arms of another man. But do be honest for a moment. Do you want a partner that cries with jealousy when they first see you with a colleague of the opposite sex? That's the heroine's weakness. Unlike the villainess, she's too scared to approach the problem on her own and needs her man to do the work for her. That said, Clovis has grown up more than I thought. Physically, I need to be careful not to push him too far. He's in the middle of a very intense puppy love and already sees me as an enemy. He's not willing to listen, so I should be a bit more careful until that puppy love comes on weak ground. I sigh. The petition to the king has already been sent, and my vacation booked. Long before this conversation, Maximilian's actions to sabotage the family will be exposed, and he'll be put under house arrest at least for the next month, as per my request. That should let me go without surveillance for a while, to observe how the situation unfolds. And actually, just maybe have a relaxing beginning to the summer, now where I will not have to join the summer work sessions at the summer palace. You see, large amounts of the work Clovis and I were in charge of gets bundled up slowly throughout the year to the summer, so that we can focus on our studies the rest of the year. Since Delia doesn't know territory management, Clovis will have to go through that hell alone. My lips curl into a smile. If nothing else, this is revenge too. Beatrix's point of view. A few days later I walk into our summer mansion, with the 2 trunks filled with things, mostly books, I brought along, and a smile slowly creeps onto my face. Phase 3. Enjoy a month of vacation. It's completely quiet. No butler to greet me, no maids to constantly make sure I look perfect, no servants constantly looking to be at my beck and call, and no guards telling me I can't go out when I want. It's perfect. My voice echoes through the entry hall, and I enjoy it as I breathe in the air of a month of freedom. Or, as my parents think of it, a month to heal the heartbreak while Clovis gets over his puppy love. I pop the high heels off of my feet and happily saunter through the empty mansion, to look for a room overlooking the royal gardens. Yes, that is the best part about this mansion. It lets me follow up on the drama going on inside, and otherwise just enjoy the view of a beautifully blossoming garden. Perks of being from a powerful ducal family that has always been close to the royal family. It's not that I'm going to spy on them intensely, but it's not like I'm uninterested either. Not that there will be much to spy on, as Clovis will practically have little to no time with Delia, because of all the work he has to do. Most days he will come back after dark. In the past, both of us usually end up completely exhausted, looking like wet rags that have been squeezed dry and sloppily placed in a chair. Poor Delia. I smile a bit at the pain she's going to go through. One could think of that as cruel, but she's the one what went and flirted with someone in a high position without thinking about the consequences. It's time for their first real obstacles as a couple. I'll get myself cozy though. I'll need some blankets, nails and some string. First though, let's get out of this formal dress, and into something more comfortable. Only my happy hums fill the quiet mansion. Clovis' point of view. I reach my hand out to Delia, after stepping out of the carriage, and she puts her soft hand in mine, while our gazes meet. The sea breeze makes her cherry pink hair flutter, and her eyes glimmer in the sun. Welcome to the summer palace. We will stay here for the next 2 months. Delia. She looks past me, and up at the summer palace with stars in her eyes. She almost looks dizzy at its magnificence. She manages to make these things seem beautiful again, though I myself have grown bored of the extravagance. It's one of those things that made me fall for Delia, how she made my mundane everyday colorful. I give her hand a gentle squeeze. I'll take you to our room. I feel flustered saying it. We haven't slept together in the same room till now, and usually we wouldn't, but I got permission, as long as nothing more happens. Not that I would push things that fast. Delia blushes too, stepping a little closer to me. Our room. I can't hold back a smile. I look down to her finger, where an engagement ring adorns her beautiful ring finger. It may be rash of me to do this before my engagement is fully broken with Beatrix, but it's not like my feelings for Delia will change in a month. I have already adored Delia for a couple years now. What is a single month of hard work going to change? You'll also like Eunice Louisiana Alvarez, a 20-year-old girl who had no friends even though she was already in senior high school. Her classmates prefer her as the nerd of the campus. Being a normal college student, Yunso was reincarnated into a book she barely remembers as a no-name cannon fodder. To survive in an unknown world she devises a plan in. Completed. Warning. The story is unedited. I apologize for the numerous grammatical errors within and messy storyline. Asterisk 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 after my death. I'm grateful to be reincarnated. Falling into the fiery hell she created must have been the perfect way for her to die. The other woman would then become the heroine that saved the townspeople from the Am I a Villainess? By Kira Embers. Am I a Villainess? After I died in the modern world, I was born in a magical realm with scheming nobles, magical creatures, and a magic academy straight out of Hogwarts. Still, I miss the inn. Nana wasn't someone who could be called ambitious. In fact, her mom liked to constantly remind her that she was too lazy. It wasn't that Nana was lazy. Really, she was. Follow the plot by Potato Wolfie. Follow the plot. In many stories, there is many tropes, cliches and so more. However, there is this one specific trope, in which is called the reincarnation into another world trope. Oh. Delia gives me a caring, shy smile as our eyes meet, and I guide her through the halls of the summer palace, to my room, now our room. Delia's eyes shine as she lets go of my hand and walk into the room, twirling around to see everything, then smiles as she stops by the bed and holds a hand out to me. Clovis, she calls my name so sweetly that it makes whatever worry I had left from the conversation with Beatrix melt away. I walk up to her and put my hand in hers, before pulling her to me tightly, and kiss her forehead. She giggles sweetly. I cup her face in my hand, the way I know she likes, and kiss her softly on the lips, sweetly and innocently. It'll be painful how little I'll get to see her, but the agreement with Beatrix was that I complete my duties properly, which is better for us anyway, so I can give Delia all my attention next month. I love you, Delia, I say softly. I have to go now, but remember, this is now your home too. You can go wherever you want. I try to reassure her softly, hoping she won't be too sad with me gone, and that she will befriend the castle staff. She smiles at me and cups my cheek back. I'll be waiting for you. She sends me off with a smile. Delia's point of view. It doesn't take long for me to find the library of the Summer Palace, and it is huge, and beautiful like everything else here. It's a little overwhelming, and reminds me all the time, that I will be Clovis' wife. I happily touch the engagement ring, and the pink diamond embedded in it. He spoils me so sweetly, and makes sure I always feel loved. Apparently Clovis will be very busy with work, especially now where Lady Beatrix isn't helping out anymore, as she's no longer the future queen. So I decided I would begin to study, to better myself, so I can help Clovis and we can spend more time together. Do you need help? Blank, as I look to a handsome silver-haired man that approaches me. As he walks through the rays of sun, it shimmers like stars. He looks older than Clovis, and a bit more mature. Is he the librarian perhaps? Would he be uncomfortable if I told him how beautiful he is? I shake the thought away. I was looking for books on territory and castle management, I state determinedly. He smiles at me softly, showing such a gentle expression. I see. Wait at the table over there and I will find them for you, Milday. He motions towards a cozy little reading nook by one of the tall windows facing the ocean. The sun casts a ray through the window, sending a warm light down over the table, but keeping the chair in the shadow. Is that okay? I can help carry the books. I'm stronger than I look. I appeal to him, making him smile softly again. Don't worry, just enjoy your time and get seated, milady. He walks off, leaving me alone in the library. Milady, I think getting used to that might take a while. I'm a lady now, the crown princess, no longer a little Miss Delia. I will really have to do my best. I head off to the reading nook, and look around. There's another chair a little bit away, hinting that the reading nook can probably be used by two. Still, this place really is gorgeous. Gold adornments run along the edges of the bookshelves, and the ceiling arches are filled with paintings of angels and flowers by the ocean. I wish Clovis could have been here to introduce it to me, and sit with me, and tutor me. I feel my cheeks flush red at the thought of him sitting next to me, leaning close because he has to whisper the words to me not to be noisy. I sit down in the leather-bound chair, and wriggle my toes a bit. Perhaps I could request a bit of his time to do that? Soon the silver-haired man returns with only a couple of books, which he places in front of me, and I sit up straight and try to compose myself, so the silver-haired man doesn't realize I'm thinking about silly things. I hope you will excuse my rudeness, but I assumed that you'd be most comfortable with these two books. They are great entryways into the many details of estate management. I look down at the books, a bit ashamed that my ignorance is that obvious, but happy that he took the effort and found these for me, and didn't just bring a tower of books. Thank you. I guess my lack of knowledge is quite obvious. I smile nervously, but he doesn't mock me. Many high nobles and heirs have done nothing else since they were born. Is it not just as admirable that you decide to improve now? One is never too old to learn something for the good of others, and I am sure you'll do great. I look up at the silver-haired man, and end up smiling shyly. It feels good, being praised like that, being praised for a good effort. Thank you. Can I ask what your name is? I feel a bit ashamed I forgot to introduce myself. Cyril, and yours? Cyril? That's pretty. My name is Delia. Cyril smiles. Nice to meet you, Lady Delia. In the end Cyril proved to be a really nice person. When I had trouble with understanding the books he gave me, Cyril ended up tutoring me instead. Of course I would have preferred Clovis, but perhaps it's okay, since Cyril ended up being a really great tutor. Around dinner time I left, and went to eat dinner with Clovis, but he never appeared for dinner, and the only thing I got was a message that he would not have time to dine with me, and in the end I ate it alone, after it had gotten cold, hoping he would find the time anyway. Clovis didn't return that night until the clock struck midnight, where he laid down on the bed next to me, falling asleep the moment his head hit the pillow. I was alone there for dinner the day after that too, and the day after that, and the day after that, but none of the times he came to eat dinner with me, and so my time at the library grew longer and longer, until Cyril invited me to eat with him instead, when I told him that I'd been eating alone for a few days. A few days later. It's dark outside as Clovis finally returns. It's a couple hours earlier than usual, but he still looks exhausted as he gets ready for bed, and lays down on the other side, so far away from me. Even though we've slept in the same room now for a week, he hasn't touched me, not even hugged me close at night. I feel my eyes burn a little. I'm being unreasonable. He's just tired from working too much. He even gets up before I wake up too, so of course he is tired. A sniffle still escapes me, as I still end up working myself up, from feeling unattractive, if he won't even hold me close at night. Delia? I jolt at the sound of his voice, and a hiccup escapes me. Are you still awake? He sounds groggy, as he turns over. Are you okay? What's wrong? He calls sweetly and worriedly. I'm sorry, I mutter. I'm fine, I add, but hearing his voice made all the feelings overflow. I miss him. I begin to wipe my eyes, but as I do, I feel the bed move, and suddenly I'm pulled close to Clovis's chest. His shirt is still on, but his scent is all over it. Shush, he whispers, now against my ear, as he strokes my back. I hiccup with surprise. He's so close. It might be selfish, but I'm glad you're awake, Delia. I've missed you, he says so softly, that my heart skips a beat. I miss talking with you, Delia. I miss you too, Clovis. I respond with a little smile, closely snuggled against him. I love you, Delia. I hear a heavy breath from him, and his arms get heavy around me. He's out cold like a light. I look at his face up close in the darkness, with only the moonlight slipping in through the window. Yash, I've decided, if he doesn't have time to come to me, then I will come to him. Delia's point of view. I thought I'd woken up extra early today, but Clovis was already gone by the time I woke up. Again. Just how early does he get up? I wish we could at least have breakfast together. I suppose this is because I can't do my part of the work. I sigh, and then quickly shake my head. No, we can't go and be dejected already. I clap my cheeks to fire myself up, to get ready for the day. Usually I'd go to the library to study with Cyril, but today I have a plan. I'm going to make Clovis lunch, and bring it to him. That way we can spend just a little time together. I smile happily at the idea of a little garden picnic with him. I go down to the kitchen, a bit worried the kitchen staff would chase me out of there, but partly unexpected they smile at me warmly instead, like they've been waiting for me. Miss Delia? Is there anything we can do for you? I must have gotten used to Cyril calling me lady, because the miss sounds a little wrong. I am Clovis' fiancé now after all, aren't I supposed to be called lady? I shake it off. They're smiling. It's not that they disapprove of me. I would like to make lunch for Clovis. Would it be okay I borrow the kitchen? I ask, as usually nobles aren't really allowed down here. The head chef smiles as she wipes her hands clean in her apron. Of course, if you need anything just call, and we will find it for you. Come, I'll help you find an apron and show you around. I feel the worry flutter away, and my heart fill with happiness. I'm sure Clovis told them I like to go to the kitchen and made them aware. I blush a bit, thinking about how I fed him my last homemade lunch with the same fork I had eaten from. I'm sure he will be happy. Later, I end up spending the morning making the lunch for Clovis, and I probably overdid it a little as well. It's been so long since we ate together that I got a little too excited. I smile a little to myself as I pack everything into a picnic basket and bring a blanket too. It's great weather, and all the flowers in the garden are blooming. I get everything ready, and then head out, with the kitchen people waving to me. As far as I recall, Clovis had said that the offices were in the other end of the summer palace, so it'll take a little while to get there. I may have gone a little too early though, but it'll probably be fine if I just wait. It ends up taking 20 minutes. Why are the offices so far away? I dressed myself up too, in high heels and all. I think I can feel a few blisters coming. I wince. I might have been a little foolish. I approach the offices from the garden side, looking at the time on the clock tower, and it rings for lunch. I barely made it. With a bit of excitement filling my chest with butterflies, I hide behind a tree. If I surprise him, what kind of face will he make? The doors open. You'll also like Eunice Louisiana Alvarez, a 20-year-old girl who had no friends even though she was already in senior high school. Her classmates prefer her as the nerd of the campus. Being a normal college student, Yunso was reincarnated into a book she barely remembers as a no-name cannon fodder. To survive in an unknown world she devises a plan in. Completed. Warning. The story is unedited. I apologize for the numerous grammatical errors within and messy storyline. After my death, I'm grateful to be reincarnated. Falling into the fiery hell she created must have been the perfect way for her to die. The other woman would then become the heroine that saved the townspeople from the... After I died in the modern world I was born in a magical realm with scheming nobles, magical creatures, and a magic academy straight out of Hogwarts. Still I miss the inn. Nana wasn't someone who could be called ambitious. In fact, her mom liked to constantly remind her that she was too lazy. It wasn't that Nana was lazy. Really, she was. In many stories, there is many tropes, clichés and so more. However, there is this one, specific trope, in which is called, the reincarnation into another world trope. Oh. My heart speeds up. You're never gonna make it back in time, Clovis, a female voice half laughs. I know, but Delia has been worried for me, Clovis responds, and my heart tightens. By the time you're done eating you'll only have like 10 minutes left. Is she convincing him not to go see me? I peek out from the tree, and see Clovis, looking tired, and a woman, clad in a military uniform, standing close to him. Her thick flowing locks of deep red hair bounce against her shoulders, and her warm tanned skin almost makes her look exotic. Her voice sounds deep and beautiful, like Beatrix's. I cover my ears, but I can't stop watching them. Why is he with a woman? She grins at him playfully, and he laughs. He laughs heartily at whatever she said. Clovis never acts like that with me. He always only smiles so sweetly, or calls me cute, or hides what little he does laugh. But when I see him laugh with her like this, how can I help but to think whether he truly laughs with me, and enjoys my company? She brings out a couple of sandwiches for them to share, and my heart hammers against my chest painfully. Is this what you've been doing, Clovis? The reason you've left me alone so late at night? I look down at the basket I had prepared for us. I'm spending all my energy for you, studying so hard to become worthy of you, and you're spending time with another girl. No, I must be overthinking it. The two of them lean over the half wall they were standing by with their hands on the wall, almost leaning their shoulders together, looking down as if to hide their words. I feel tears spill over. Ah, I see, I get it, I'm just a decoration now? This woman is taking my place beside him. I can't even help him with work. I'm useless to him. No wonder he'd chose someone more like her, sexy and mature, and she even has a sword too, so she's probably trained in swordplay. I hiccup, and then drop the picnic basket on the ground. I shouldn't have come here. I wish I hadn't come here. I wish I'd never fallen for someone like a prince. I run as hard as I can, stumbling over and over, until I finally kick off those stupid high-heeled shoes that don't suit me. The rain starts pouring down, like the tears from my cheeks, soaking the all-too-elegant dress that doesn't suit me either. By the time I can't run anymore, I've ended up in the library, and the water drips from my soaked dress onto the beautiful wooden floors. Why did I end up here? Lady Delia? I look up at Cyril with tear-filled eyes, having a hiccup from all the tears streaming down my face. Cyril, I gasp out between the tears. Your feet are bleeding, he says with a horrified expression, and in a single movement sweeps me into his arms, causing me to cry harder, as everything I've bottled up slips out again. I'm not suited to be a princess, I cry in his arms, as he walks with me. That's not true, Lady Delia, I sob. No one treats me like I'm Clovis' fiancé. They don't tell me anything, and he never talks with me anymore. Delia, he says out pained, and then finds a chair to sit me down on gently, making me look him in his midnight blue eyes. He caresses my cheek, and brushes away the tears. I am certain His Highness Clovis loves you very dearly. I cut him off, the frustration bursting out of my chest. He doesn't, I hiccup again. I can't get it over my lips, that he was with another woman. Cyril looks at me worried, with pain in his eyes. I'm sorry, I choke out. I didn't mean to take my frustration out on him. I use my hands to wipe away the tears so desperately, but they just keep coming. Then, be with me instead, Delia. I'll never let you feel so lonely, My tears stop in surprise at his words, and my heart flips with confusion. With Cyril? I'd never thought of Cyril like that, but Cyril has always been there when I was lonely. He's always praised me for my skills, helped me understand this world better, and he's not a prince buried in duties. I blink, as Cyril presses his soft lips against mine. They're smaller than Clovis, but softer, and more insisting. Would I be better as a librarian's wife? I can't help but to think that for a moment. The sound of something dropping echoes through the library. Cyril pulls back, and there at the door, stands Clovis, and on the floor are my high heels. Ah, no. Your Highness, forgive me, I have been impertinent. Cyril kneels down, lowering his head to the ground, making my head spin. But Clovis ignores him and just looks directly at me. Why, no, wait, no, it's not like that. What is going on? Your Highness, Lady Delia did nothing. I was the one who overstepped my boundaries. Cyril defends me with all his might. Delia, what happened? Clovis looks angry. I've never seen him so angry. He's soaked to the bone, looking tense, like when he's arguing with Beatrix. I was just unsure, and Cyril not with him. I look down, as tears continue flowing. I'm sorry, I sob out. Why did you run? His voice is hard and cold. I don't deserve this. Why are you treating me like this when you're the one sleeping around? I've been trying so hard. I've been preparing all day, trying to be a good princess, but you like that woman more than me. I sniffle out. What woman? Beatrix? Why is his voice so harsh? Why doesn't he pat my head? No, the red-haired woman that was next to you. Through my tears I see Clovis run a hand through his hair, and sigh so deeply, like his expectations for me left his body with it. I can't believe this actually happened. We were looking over business papers for the next meeting. No, wait, that can't be true. Cyril, make sure her feet are tended to and she gets some dry clothes to wear. I have a meeting I need to get back to. I hiccup. Clovis? Clovis turns away, and without a word just walks out of the library. Why? Clovis? I immediately stand up, but flinch from the pain in my feet and almost stumble over, only to be caught by Cyril. Clovis, you cannot. Lady Delia, you're too hurt. I shake my head. Red-haired lady, that's probably Lady Louise Winterbell. She's his Clovis' cousin, and the current Duchess Winterbell. She got married last year. I heard she was helping out in Beatrix's place so they could be done faster. I stare up at Cyril in horror. His cousin? But they were standing so close, laughing and smiling, like family. Oh no. I need to fix this. Lady Delia, you can't stand up yet. Let me tend to your feet first. He pleads me, but if I don't go now, I feel like something bad is gonna happen. They wouldn't let you in with your feet bleeding like this. I bite my lip, and let Cyril sit me back down, as tears keep rolling down. What have I done? Why am I so stupid? I bury my face in my hands. By the time Cyril finishes, and finds me some flat shoes, I hurriedly try to find Clovis, but the guards block me from going near the offices, requesting me to go back and wait until the meetings are over. The meetings that last until the middle of the night. Please, don't throw me away, Clovis. Clovis' point of view. My head is spinning. After the thing that happened with Delia, I haven't been able to focus. My eyes are burning after crying like a fool. I could barely make it through the meetings without turning into a mess, and making a fool of myself. No, I've already done that. I sigh as I put my head against the rain-soaked front door, my hand on the door knocker. What am I doing here? I really am an idiot. The servants will see me. The guards will question me. I should go. What was I thinking of, coming here? The door opens, and instead of a servant I see Beatrix herself through my tear-blurred vision with a small glowing lantern. I want to scold her for opening the door on her own, that a lady like her should know of the dangers, but all that comes out is uncontrollable sobs. Clovis? I shake my head. What in the world am I doing? Going to Beatrix to have my face laughed at for being an idiot, for everything turning out the way she said, the way she warned me, and that I got so angry at her for saying. Before I can turn away in further shame, I feel her slender hand slide into my hair as she steps out of the door, and pulls me down to her shoulder. My heart tightens with pain. Why? Come on in, you'll get sick like this, she says softly, in a tone she doesn't use. Why? Aren't you supposed to mock me? To tell me what a fool I am? That I get what I deserve? But she doesn't. She just awkwardly guides me through the door, with my head still on her shoulder, and she pushes the door closed behind us. She puts down the lantern, and caresses my back, patiently, calmly, showing a kindness I'd long thought her incapable of, and it only makes me cry harder, as it proves I've been a fool with Beatrix as well. It takes a while, before the tears stop rolling, and my head feels empty and numb. Come on, you're soaking wet. Let's find you some dry clothes. She lets me go, and then takes my hand instead. I feel like an obedient puppy as I let her guide me through the quiet mansion. Why did you let me in? My voice cracks. But Beatrix just looks back at me with a serious and worried expression. I'm not going to abandon someone that looks like they're about to kill themselves. Ah. Do I look like that to you? I don't ask anymore, and just let her guide me the rest of the way to one of the rooms. The blankets have been used to make a small blanket fort on the bed, and I can see a few books in there. It's lived in, and clearly Beatrix's room. Completely inappropriate for an adult lady. She lets my hand go, and goes to the drawer, where she messes around for a bit. I look over Beatrix as she searches, and finally realize that she's only in a chemise. A now wet chemise because of me. I look away. I think this one should fit. I don't have any men's clothes, so you'll have to deal with what you're given. I cautiously look back, and find her holding up another chemise, and a set of long frilly women's bloomers. Is this an attempt at humiliating me? She blinks, and then gives a huff. Don't worry, I'm saving that till you perk up a bit. There's no servants here. You can either wear this, or sleep in your wet clothes. I sigh. I don't really have the energy to argue with her. Okay. She gives a nod, and then hands me the clothes before putting the lantern between us, and turning around, so I can undress behind her. Soon I've changed, and I feel ridiculous. What am I doing in a lace dress in Beatrix's mansion? Should I just head back? But I don't want to go back. Are you done? She asks softly. I turn around, looking at her back. Here the wet imprint of my arms around her clings to her skin. I didn't realize I hugged her back. Yes. You should change too, Beatrix. She glances over her shoulder at me. I know. Meanwhile, go to bed. You're still exhausted from work, so your mind doesn't work right. I nod, not denying that, and head towards the bed, crawling into the blanket fort construction. It feels oddly safe and cozy. Before the sleep claims my body, I manage to carefully ask the one question that I have been desperately wanting to ask her since noon. How did you know? Her face looks guilt-ridden in the lantern light. Because she always wants someone to save her. I see. Next morning, I stir awake, brushing away something tickling my cheek. Finally awake, my eyes open, and meet with Beatrix's. She's standing on the side of the bed and leaning over me, with her long golden hair trickling down her shoulders and down to mine. I instinctively look towards the window, with a feeling of building stress, but thankfully it's only almost daylight. I almost groan at the thought of another day filled with the torment of paperwork. What am I even doing this for anymore? There's no need to rush anymore, is there? My chest starts hurting again, as my mind drifts back to yesterday in a swirl of dark thoughts. As if to interrupt my stream of thoughts, Beatrix pokes my cheek, not just revealing the tickling feeling from before, but also some rather bratty behavior. I stare at her disapprovingly, and then end up glancing down, and realize that she's only in a chemise and an apron. I sigh and cover my eyes. Why are you wearing that? I know I'm heartbroken, but you're a lady for God's sake. Why? Because my night intruder has to start his workday soon, and I made breakfast, as you were going to be late otherwise. I roll away from her, not the apron. A moment of silence spreads between us. My stomach turns. I don't want to go back, but I want to grab Delia in my arms and forgive her, say that it was just stupid misunderstandings. But will fixing it this time prevent it from happening again? Or something else for that matter? What if she just leaves one day without a letter, because she thought I did something again, and I have to search for her? You have to go back. No. Unlike with me, you cannot just run away from Delia. She is not a forced betrothed you can just entertain when you feel like it. You are the one that invited her into your heart, your family, your home and called her your fiancé. She is waiting for you, probably bawling her tears out over the mistake she has made. I look up at Beatrix. Why are you doing this? Trying to help Delia out instead of seducing me. She looks at me quietly for a long while, and hesitates. Think of it as me making up for telling you something I shouldn't have, but you were right. Even if I was, would you be here in my bed if I had not told you? I think I gave you an easy way out, instead of making you face the situation, like a king should. If you don't go back now and make a proper decision, won't you regret it? I frown and then let out a heavy sigh. I would. When you say it like that, you aren't cute at all. She's mixing duty into it. But she's not wrong either. But part of me wishes that she had given me an easy way out. I feel a soft wave of bitterness. Then, was letting me in yesterday your duty to the crown? Because you couldn't just let me off myself in heartache? I sit up, feeling confused and upset as I try to read her expression, but all she gives me in return is a coy smile. You'll also like Eunice Louisiana Alvarez, a 20-year-old girl who had no friends even though she was already in senior high school. Her classmates prefer her as the nerd of the campus. Being a normal college student, Yunso was reincarnated into a book she barely remembers as a no-name cannon fodder. To survive in an unknown world she devises a plan in. Completed. Warning. The story is unedited. I apologize for the numerous grammatical errors within and messy storyline. After my death, I'm grateful to be reincarna. Falling into the fiery hell she created must have been the perfect way for her to die. The other woman would then become the heroine that saved the townspeople from the. After I died in the modern world I was born in a magical realm with scheming nobles, magical creatures, and a magic academy straight out of Hogwarts. Still I miss the inn. Nana wasn't someone who could be called ambitious. In fact, her mom liked to constantly remind her that she was too lazy. It wasn't that Nana was lazy. Really, she was. In many stories, there is many tropes, clichés and so more. However, there is this one, specific trope, in which is called, the reincarnation into another world trope. Oh. Then I would have called your guards to take you home, not let you wear my undergarments, in which you look, quite unthreatening, your highness. I deflate a bit, and sigh as I lay back down. Does it really amuse you so much? Her eyes narrow, into those bullying eyes she make when someone's foolishness really does amuse her. Of course. You might get to see me in a chemise, but I get to see you with that princely act torn apart, just acting like a normal heartbroken person. Princely act? That's how I'm supposed to act, you know. I let out a soundless groan. Beatrix is full of truths I don't want to think about. She always was. But she also looked down at me, like I was an unknowing child sometimes. I sigh. Besides, what am I going to say when Delia asks if I know where you are, and why I'm here? Do I tell her that you're sleeping off a heartache in my bed? I get it. I sit up, and get out of the bed. Satisfied, she straightens up, and then points to the chair. Your clothes are dry, and I have breakfast ready. Your earliest morning meetings should start in half an hour, so you'll have to hurry up. I made sure you can eat breakfast on the way. I'll meet you downstairs. She leaves, unceremoniously. I look outside, where the sun hasn't risen fully yet, and I can't help but to wonder if she's always up this early, or if she herself got up to wake me, since I fell asleep like that. She used to be a part of these busy times after all, so she knows how it is. I feel like her room was messier yesterday though, without remembering clearly. One thing's for sure though, that blanket fort of hers is practically hanging on a thread. I can't help but to give a half smile. Books are stabled in uneven stacks, barely sorted by genre, like it was a rush job. Usually I'd never be let anywhere near Beatrix's private space, and we would always meet in a greeting room or in a garden, surrounded by guards and servants. I don't think I've ever been alone with her like today, and the meeting in the student council room, since we were around 7. She has a point when she says I don't know her well. Privately. I just thought there wasn't any point. After all, she never gave the opening to show that there existed something else. How different could she be, is the thought I had. I frown. Unlike Beatrix, I was taught to be perfect every second of the day. Princely, I suppose. I never thought that Beatrix would be any different from me, that she would have kept a part of herself behind closed doors when no one is looking. I finish changing clothes, walk out of her room and down the hallways. I thought the place was quiet yesterday, but even now, where the servants usually wake up and get the day started, it's deadly quiet. Is there even anyone here? As I get to the entry hall, I see Beatrix waiting for me, looking somewhat impatient, with a sandwich in her hand. Though, getting closer I stare at the half-squished loaf of bread, and its insides almost falling out. Is that supposed to be a sandwich? She looks at it, and then back at me with a shrug. What did you expect? I'm not Delia. You really aren't. Why don't you at least have a cook here? I didn't want anyone disturbing my vacation. Vacation. So instead you're all alone, making yourself a target by abduction, by staying all alone and opening the doors for men at night. I jab at her, to make her consider her own safety just a little bit. She huffs, and puts a hand to her cheek, giving me a cold stare. And who would try to abduct the coldest and cruelest woman in the country? They shake in fear at the sight of me. I stare at her. A few weeks ago I might have agreed with that statement of hers, but now. I look down at the apron for a moment, and then back up to her eyes. I can't tell if she's looking that much down on people, or doesn't realize her own charm. She's been locked up in a castle her whole life, and had people cower at her feet for her entire life. So to be honest, it might be both. Get some guards. I'll send some over until they arrive. I grab the sandwich from her and walk past her to the door. What disservice did I do for you? Do you think I'd allow you to ruin my vacation? I freeze. Then sigh. Turn around. Does that vacation consist of walking around in a chemise all day? One thing was last night, but you're still barely wearing anything. Why aren't you wearing a proper dress? Her answer comes bluntly. Because the corset is a pain to tie up and wear. For a single guy that's not here for more than 10 minutes, and has never had any genuine interest in me, not even passing. Now get going and don't send any guards. She might be smiling as she says that, but her eyes aren't. The more I get to know about Beatrix, the more I notice that the love I thought she had for me was merely pleasantries, and she's treating me exactly as what I've worked for, like someone with no importance to her. I hesitate for a moment, and then step out of the door. At least find a summer dress. I sigh and start walking towards the palace, my head a different sort of mess than yesterday, until I realize that I now have to explain to Delia where I've been. With the woman that terrifies Delia to the core. I don't think, because she told me you would do this, is going to pass as an answer. At least the sandwich is easy to finish. The guards give a look of relief and worry as I approach the gate, and let me in without a word. On the other side is Delia, Cyril and Louise Winterbell, the one that kissed her, and the one she exploded in jealousy from just seeing me work with. Delia is wrapped in a blanket, and her eyes are puffy from crying. My stomach sinks with guilt. I can't stand seeing her cry. Your Highness, please forgive me. I beg that you not take your anger of me out on Lady Delia. Cyril drops to the ground again, taking any and all blame for the situation, while Delia stands behind him, looking at me with those blue doe eyes pleading with me. Louise smiles at me awkwardly. It was just a misunderstanding, Clovis. See, she never had anyone in her heart but you. She's just been insecure because she's all alone in a new place, and you haven't time with her all week. Yesterday Louise was teasing me about my eagerness to get back to Delia. Today she's half scolding me I didn't. But she also looks guilty. She probably thinks this happened because of her, so she needs to make up for it. Beatrix and Louise don't get along well. They work together fine, but Louise hates Beatrix's scheming, just like I do. Louise also grew up with us men, rather than her fellow ladies, because of her family situation, so she doesn't understand Beatrix's way of doing things. Then again, neither do I. Perhaps that's why she likes Delia. The Delia who doesn't seem to scheme, and looks weak and unthreatening. I look to Delia, waiting for any sort of excuse, or apology from her, but she glances to Cyril and Louise, as though looking for backup. With it, a sudden realization hits me. Is this how she's been dealing with Beatrix? Am I the villain now? Am I supposed to hug her close and say it doesn't matter what happened, that it's my fault, and that I'll try to spend more time with her? I didn't know she'd been working hard. I haven't had the time to find out. Am I supposed to put her under surveillance, and read a report on what she's been doing, before going to bed so I can praise her in the rare case she's still awake? Should I treat it as a one-time incident, and try to stop worrying? But I glance down to Cyril. He might have kissed her, but her hands tightened into his shirt. She didn't struggle, pull back, or anything. She just closed her eyes and let him. If I hadn't run after her, what would have happened? To begin with, I only noticed her because I noticed Beatrix's mansion faces the garden, so I got a bit paranoid about being watched, and noticed the basket being dropped. I wasn't really worried until I saw Delia's bloody shoes, and my heart sunk with worry for her. I didn't even think about that it might be because she saw Louise, until I saw her kissing Cyril. Clovis? Delia calls me, her sweet voice trembling. I stand at the crossway, feeling my heart tremble, and my lips press together. But what is the right choice? To forgive Delia, and try again, or to try desperately to give her up? If Beatrix hadn't told me ahead of time, what would I have done? If she hadn't put the seed of distrust in my heart, would that be the right answer? I gave up on Beatrix before knowing her properly, and made a mess out of things. If I give up on Delia, then won't I be exactly the same as I was back then? I fought for the chance to be with someone I loved. Can I give that up so easily? I stand there, looking at Delia that stares up at me with tears in her sweet eyes, and remember the time of love we had that lead up to this. The times I was certain I would be with her forever, and I find myself scared of losing that. It's alright. Delia just got worried once. Not everything is broken between us. It was just a misunderstanding, right? And Cyril himself says that he initiated it. I put a smile on my face, forced, and an act, as I convince myself. I understand. I should have told you about Louise, too. I compromise, and lift the guilt from her shoulders. She seems to have stayed awake all night. She has learned from this. It won't happen again. Delia darts into my arms, and her small figure presses into mine. I gently stroke her hair, but it still feels like something isn't the way it was before. Like something is broken.